What if the speed of sound suddenly became slower than the speed of walking? You take a step forward and leave your own footsteps behind. You clap your hands, then calmly walk away from the noise. Nothing explodes. Physics just quietly breaks communication. To understand the problem, we need numbers. On Earth, sound travels at about 343 meters per second. Walking speed is roughly 1.4 meters per second. Now imagine swapping that relationship. Sound crawls along slower than a human strolling to the fridge. Sound is no longer how information spreads. It becomes a slow-moving physical object. Speech turns into delayed data packets, drifting through air, arriving seconds or minutes late. You don't hear what people say. You hear what they said a while ago. Normal conversation becomes impossible. By the time a sentence reaches you, the speaker has already moved, changed expression, or left the room. Arguments become time-shifted disasters. Apologies arrive too late. Jokes land after everyone has gone home. Face-to-face communication no longer synchronizes meaning. Human interaction switches from real-time to eventually consistent, which is not how emotions work. Here's the truly absurd part. You can outrun yourself. You shout, "Stop!" and then jog forward, leaving the command floating uselessly behind you. Military orders fail. Crowd control collapses. Emergency warnings become historical records. The phrase, "shouting into the void," becomes literal. Sound is no longer authoritative. Motion is. Music suffers in a very specific way. Each instrument emits sound that arrives late and out of order. Rhythm collapses. Harmony disintegrates. Concert halls fill with overlapping audio fossils from the past. Orchestras stop performing together and start performing alone at the same time. Silence becomes preferable, not because it's quiet, but because it's finally honest. Humans adapt by cheating. Visual signals replace audio. Text, lights, gestures, screens everywhere. Wireless communication becomes the only reliable real-time system because electromagnetic waves still move fast. Ironically, society becomes quieter, but more connected digitally. The loudest cities in history become visually noisy and acoustically useless. Human brains are optimized for sound speed. Reaction times, balance, speech processing all assume sound arrives almost instantly. Now the brain receives delayed audio feedback that no longer matches visual input. Motion sickness becomes universal. Vertigo skyrockets. Evolution did not plan for asynchronous reality. Machines that rely on sound fail quietly. Sonar becomes useless. Alarms warn no one. Acoustic sensors lie by omission. Factories redesign safety systems overnight. Anything critical switches to light or direct data links. Sound survives only as decoration. Emergency systems fail not violently, but embarrassingly. Sirens still activate, but their warnings crawl through the air slower than fleeing crowds. By the time danger arrives acoustically, people are already somewhere else. Screams lose authority. Orders stop propagating. On battlefields, sound becomes a liability. A shouted command is outdated before it arrives. Soldiers rely entirely on gestures, lights, and pre-planned motion. Generals stop yelling and start designing choreography. Crowd control collapses. Panic spreads faster than information meant to stop it. Civilization learns a brutal systems lesson. If a warning arrives after the event begins, it is no longer a warning. It is a record. Language itself begins to fail at the protocol level. Spoken conversation evolved around near-instant feedback. Now every sentence exists for seconds, without confirmation of reception. Turn-taking disappears. Interruptions become meaningless. Dialogue fragments drift out of order. People compress speech aggressively. Vocabulary shrinks. Timing-dependent constructs, jokes, sarcasm, emphasis, fail first. Humor dies quietly. Visual grammar replaces audio grammar. Symbols outperform words. Eventually, speech stops being interactive. It becomes archival. You speak not to be heard now, but to be encountered later. Sound is no longer communication. It is delayed evidence that communication once happened. So what happens if sound becomes slower than walking? Humanity survives. Civilization adapts. But sound stops being information and becomes scenery. Speech loses authority. Music loses structure. Warnings lose urgency. The world doesn't get louder or quieter. It gets delayed. And in a delayed world, only things that don't wait remain powerful.